Hi witches! So today's video is going to be a little bit shorter, a little bit more casual than perhaps my other ones have been, but today I wanted to take some time to talk about how you can consecrate your gardening tools. Now, if you did have the chance to celebrate Imbolc with me earlier this week over on TikTok, I do live rituals for all of the holidays there, just because that's where the most people are for me. So if that is something that interests you, the link is in the bio. But we did a portion of our ritual was dedicated to consecrating our tools, our gardening tools, our witchcraft tools, any tools that we are going to be using a lot in the year ahead. So today I wanted to talk specifically about some methods that I've used for consecrating my gardening tools. So I think that as a hedge witch and maybe as a green witch, those are some of the most important tools in our practice. I think arguably for kitchen witches, more stuff like, like utensils, spoons, knives, maybe if you have a specific like wand that you use in the kitchen, stuff like that. You can apply a lot of these methods to kitchen witchcraft, but the stuff I'm talking about today is going to be a little bit more geared towards gardening and all of that. Now today I'm just going to be touching on the methods that I specifically have used. There are definitely as many methods to consecrating things as there are witches in the world, so if this doesn't necessarily line up with your tradition, that's okay. Follow whatever your tradition says. These are just some ideas, and if you have another method, I would really love to hear about it down in the comments. I think one of my favorite things about being like an internet witch is that I get to learn from other people. So if that's something you want to share, my comments are always open. I am always so happy to learn from you guys. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this little list I have here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and the first method, and probably my most used method, is actually to take your tools and to bury them in the ground that you are going to be working. Now, this is definitely better suited for people who have outdoor gardens. I currently do not. I have like one. Okay, this is a new leaf. I grew this myself. It's a larger plant, but it's down on the ground. But this is like the newest leaf. But this is the newest leaf, and it sprouted ever since I've been taking care of this plant for the majority of the time before. It's kind of my partner's plant. But anyways, plant tangent. But burying your tools in the ground you wish to connect with is really, I think, a very symbolic act. Now, when using this method, I think it's really symbolic and really nice to use your bare hands to kind of dig around in the dirt in order to cover everything up. It's also good to like mark where you buried things, otherwise you might forget. So just be careful about that. A simple like wooden stake or something like that will absolutely suffice. But I think that by taking your tools and putting them in the environment in which they are going to be assisting you, it really just allows their energies to align with that place. Now, you can do this either on a new moon or a full moon, depending on whatever you would like to do. I always did mine on the full moon just because it is supercharged. But if you are maybe doing a working about planting seeds, planting intentions, the new moon might work a little bit better for whatever you are working on. So it is all good. But I think that really allowing that energy of the earth to completely envelop your tools and then to kind of unearth them in the morning or whenever you go back to get your tools back is really special. Now, obviously, don't do this for tools that are easily breakable. I'm thinking, like trowels or like little rakes and stuff, or whatever you might use for your gardening practice. But that, of course, is completely up to the witch. So yes. Now, the next method is actually something that I was going to do this year on Imbolc, but alas, I couldn't. So this method is to take your tools and to wash them in running water that runs either on or near your land. Again, not only is this a very symbolic act, it's also a very cleansing act. So you can kind of use this method in a greater spell, perhaps, or a greater ritual. Again, I was gonna go do this on Imbolc, but the creek that I went to was actually like frozen, so I didn't, and I have decided that I'm going to go when it gets a little bit warmer after the final frost of the season. So it's kind of a way I'm kind of giving a nod to winter, like, I understand, I hear you, it is not the time, and once the spring is here, I will be then starting my consecration. Before I go any further, I realized I didn't really explain like the difference between consecration and cleansing. So cleansing is when you are taking negative energies away from something, when you are physically cleaning it in an energetic way or a physical way perhaps, and this is done through smoke cleansing, through water. You can do it through any sort of method that you so choose. If you would like to learn more, I have videos about cleansing and cleansing your space, so take a look at those. On the converse, consecration is when you have a specific object and you charge it with a purpose, and usually that purpose is within the context of helping you with your practice. You have a specific tool that you use, for example, a ritual knife, and it doesn't have to be an athame, it can just be a regular knife that you are deciding to use only in your practice. The same techniques can be applied to that. However, what I'm talking about today is really more about charging your gardening tools with the task of helping you with your green witch practice, your hedge witch practice, your gardening and earth tending practice. So I hope that makes sense. If you have more questions, because I feel like I'm kind of struggling to like verbalize this concept, let me know. I might be able to explain it a little bit better if you have further questions. So I am always happy to clarify and go into further detail, but hopefully you guys are understanding the difference between cleansing, which is, again, removing negative energies, and consecrating, which is kind of adding in a task or an intention to an object and kind of tying those energies not only to the object itself, but taking the object and tying it to yourself. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyways, moving right along. Next thing on my list of ways that I have consecrated tools for gardening is to meditate with them in your gardening space. So this is something that can be done for both indoor and outdoor gardens, and just kind of aligning them with your energy. So this is something that we did during our in bulk ritual where we held it. We held our tool or had them kind of out in front of us if we had multiple tools that we were consecrating. And then we did a visualization exercise. Sorry, I know I'm doing this weird hand motion, but we did a visualization exercise where we created kind of a dome of golden light around these objects and tasked them with the things that we wanted their help within our practice. So yes. Another really great way to consecrate your tools, especially if you work with maybe like a nature deity, nature-based deity, or an agricultural deity, is to create an altar space for them if you haven't already, and create a specific place where you keep those tools. So by kind of tying your tools to your deity practice, it really creates this amazing bond and is also an avenue for people to not only work within their green witch practice, but also engage in deity work, which I think is really, really amazing. Alternatively, this can also be applied to kitchen witchcraft by leaving maybe your specific like kitchen utensils and tools that you use for your witchcraft, if you can, or if you would like to, on an altar to maybe a hearth deity or a deity that you work with the most in the kitchen. But of course, if you don't work with deities, that is a-okay. It is not a requirement to be a witch. So just some ideas though, as a witch who does work with deities. For my witches who are in the broom closet or maybe can't openly practice as much as they would like, there are energetic ways of consecrating your tools. So I like to say that you don't necessarily need altars and candles and all of this stuff to practice witchcraft, because a lot of it is very energetic work. Some ideas that I had and things that I have done in the past, especially when I was in the broom closet, my ideas was to take my tools on a walk through nature and just incorporating them back into that wild space, which is something that I think is very important, especially if it is like a new store-bought tool, or it's just kind of like, okay, like I understand that this is a new tool, however, I want to make sure it's acclimated to its environment so it can help me the best, which I know sounds a little bit crazy and a little bit woo-woo, but I think there is really something to infusing your tools with your own energy, and I really encourage it. Another method, I think I had touched on this before, was that kind of golden dome of consecration. So what you'll do essentially is to hold your hands over your tools, or perhaps hold your tool in your hand if you're only doing one at a time, a-okay. But in visualizing a golden dome of light or a golden kind of orb of light radiating around the tools or tool in question, and allowing that beautiful energy that comes from us and from the universe around us to really, again, cleanse and make this object something sacred for your practice. So it is a very much an energetic working. You can definitely go that path, but if you prefer, there is that more physical side of things of like taking the objects, putting them into the space in which you intend to use them. I really recommend, of course, praying and setting intention when it comes to consecration and more physical consecration methods, because like, yeah, you can just go bury your tools, but if you don't put some energy into it, you're just covering them with dirt, right? The idea is that you are physically making these tools a very sacred part of your practice. So there is a lot of intention that goes into this. Another thing that I do really, really recommend to all practitioners is to make an offering to the planet whenever you are consecrating your tools. Maybe having a conversation with the planet, that is a-okay. I know it sounds, again, a little bit like woo-woo, but I talk to the trees. I don't care. I love it. It's one of my favorite hobbies. I love it. I do work with the Lord of the Trees, so I don't really know if that's part of it, but probably. I would like to think. I'm very much repping Hearn today in my outfit, so yeah, it's a good day to be talking about this. Leaving an offering is a very integral part to me because I do want to show the earth my appreciation. Examples of offerings, my favorite one is just fresh water. I know that's pretty accessible, I hope, but you could also use moon water. I think that using magically charged waters or blessed waters is a great way to give back to the earth. I try not to leave anything that isn't organic or some sort of like biodegradable offering, as I like to nourish the earth the way it nourishes me back, and establishing that relationship with your plot of land I think can be very important and very transformational in people's practices. I think there's a very spiritual thing to connecting with the land that you are nourishing, the land that you are taking care of. So I do recommend some sort of offering if you can. So those are just some of the methods that I've personally used to consecrate my gardening tools. If you have other methods, again, I would really love to learn from you guys, so leave them down below, and I will see you guys on Monday.